Back on the air conditioning on the Subaru Forester, video number 2. Now, if you remember in the last video, it had a -5 vacuum on the low side, and it was not due to an expansion valve, because very rarely have I come across bad expansion valves on these Subarus. So now I filled the system up. It's completely filled, and we have 25 PSI on the low side. There we go, we just zoomed in. 162 on the high side. Look at our superheat now. Whoops, oh boy. Look at our superheat now. We are at 19 degrees, 18 degrees superheat. Remember before we were at 56 degrees superheat. That's how you can use superheat as a diagnosis tool. If you know that normal superheat on that year, make, model vehicle, because you've done a couple hundred of them before, or 100 of them, or 50 of them, whatever your memory tension span is. I have a bad memory. 56 superheat in the first one was very bad. Now we're completely factory filled. 15 to 18 superheat. It's going back and forth. Let's look at here's our pressures. Now where you see those two glitches right there, let me see if I could get the clouds, and we got a little overcast today. Let me see if I could get that out of the screen for you, make it a little more pleasurable. Can't be perfect, but this is gonna have to do. That's where the clutch kicked out. It satisfied temperature in the cab at those indicators, and the clutch kicked out at this time, and the clutch kicked out there. So there's your high side and low side pressure. 153, 164, 158. So that's your high side pressure. Low side pressure, 24, 25, 24, 24, and that's from minute 0 through minute 4. Let's go to our superheat and subcooling. You can see where the superheat and subcooling kicks in and out when the clutch kicked in and out, right at these 2 points. But then it just has its nice little hunting. The engine RPMs are stable. The fan is at 1 speed. There's the clutch kicking out right there. Oh, there goes the superheat and subcooling. We're losing it right now. You can see it go down. Clutch just kicked in. You can hear it. So this is the normal little loping that you see. The expansion valve is doing its hunting, like it's modulating, trying to keep the superheat steady. So we have a steady fan speed on the inside. We have a steady fan speed on the outside. We have a steady RPM. As long as it's steady, then what you're seeing is the expansion valve modulating a little bit. But the only problem is we're having to kick out of the compressor because it's satisfying temperature. And it's satisfying temperature at roughly, look, we got 41 degrees there. So we go 43, we went down to 41, it kicked down. 42, we went down to 40, and we kicked out. Then after 43, we went down to 41. Around 41, the clutch is kicking out at. And as our cabin temperature gets lower, our clutch kicking off intervals, its duration is getting shorter. It's kicking out more often. Now, if I want to get rid of that kick out, let me open up the doors and windows. Let's put this sucker under full load. I just wanted to see what its minimum temperature, where this vehicle, and in different vehicles it's different, where this particular vehicle will cut out its clutch, and it appears to be at roughly 41 degrees. Let's get this out of recycle, because now I want to bring in the engine temperature here, the hot engine coming over to crawl. And somebody just told me, they reminded me I put an R in my crawl. I guess that's, don't know where the hell that is from, but yeah, crawl, whatever. So now let's go over here. Now this hot engine air that is coming from the condenser, so it's 62 or 65 degrees outside. It's going through a condenser, it's getting heated up. It's going through a radiator, it's heated up. Then the fan is blowing the air this way, I could feel it. Then we have the radiant heat coming off the exhaust. Then it gets sucked down here and it gets mixed with the cold air from out here, with the hot air from here. It gets a little mix, and it's putting a load on the evaporator. There's no more recycle. I have the windows open. So See this minimum temperature here? Now we're going up. 47, 48, 49. It's heading towards 50 degrees coming out the dash. That's bringing in this air through here, loading up the evaporator. Let's go back and look at superheating subcooling. Look at our, let's see. Now that we have a load over the evaporator, look at, we're still holding our superheat. The expansion valve is doing its job, modulating the superheat. We are at 11 degrees superheat. Our subcooling is still 27. Because we have a full system now. It's not like the first video I made where the superheat was 56 and the subcooling was 7. Low on refrigerant. It only had like 4 ounces of refrigerant left in the system. So that was really obvious why it had a negative 5 vacuum on the suction side. And wait a minute, wouldn't somebody say, doesn't the pressure switch save the compressor if it senses too low of pressure on the low side? -5 would be considered bad, right? Yes, but it only looks at the time when the engine is off and the compressor is off. There's no signal calling for the compressor. It looks at the pressure switch and it says, I have more than 44 PSI of refrigerant, therefore I must be good enough to engage the clutch. That's the last time it looks at it. After that, once it's running, it doesn't look at that minimum low side pressure anymore on that switch. It'll keep running even though it's starving for refrigerant, even though it's starving for cooling back to keep the compressor from killing itself, even though it's starving for oil return. This is the flaw with some of those systems, and this is all the lies that you've been told, that the low pressure switch will always save the compressor. It was all lies. It was all lies due to lack of knowledge, because guys don't read the mode of operation. All right, that's enough for now. See you later.